Hello, family. My name is Chris. I am your home gamer dad. And on this Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid Villains Breakdown, it's all about bosses. We've had 2 weeks in a row of nothing but monsters. So now we need at least one episode showcasing the various bosses that you can find in the Kickstarter box, Villain Pack 1 and Villain Pack 3. I chose these guys because besides them all being bosses, they all have some type of relationship to Rita Repulsa. That's why this is Rita's family. You're a loose connection, and the rest of you, well, it's one messed up family, let me tell you right now. Honestly, when I started putting all this together, I really didn't intend on that type of connection to happen. I already did like the core box, which had Rita, and then I did Rita's lackeys, and like I pulled this together, I'm like, wow, all you guys are related to Rita somehow, except for the Wizard of Deception, who's more like a friend of sorts, in a way. So he's the oddball out in this whole mix. So I understand that I know that already, but everyone else is related to Rita in one way, shape, or form. So it's just fun to have her as like the central like piece to the 5 of them right here, and like how they would relate to her, and just using them in the games and whatnot, and having that type of storyline going. So it was fun. It's a great way to do this. As far as where you can find Rita's dysfunctional family, and you can make up whatever you want for the Wizard of Deception. What do we got? We got Zedd, and we got the Wizard, actually. Both of them are in the giant Kickstarter box. Again, I've covered 2 weeks ago, my monster set was all about monsters from that box. We also have, Master Vile and Rito from Villain Pack number 1, which again, I covered a bunch of monsters from there as well. And then finally, you have Thrax, which you'll find in Villain Pack number 3, which you could also find Divatox in that one. And then that was one with King Sphinx and Prontus Head. Again, those seem to be the 3 packs that I've been covering over the last few weeks for my villain breakdown. So if you're missing those within your collection, you like to grab them in order to bump up your game, give it some challenge, you know, add to it. We know that's coming to an end come January or February, whatever, Q1 in 2025 with Eternal Rangers. I did a whole video talking about that upcoming Kickstarter and the teaser video and everything that came out. I may reference that as I go through this. But again, if you don't have any of that, by all means, check out the description below. There are links down there, affiliate links that really go a long way to helping the channel, should you wish to add any of that to your collection, or just to check out regardless. If you are new to my breakdowns, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you find this very enjoyable. And of course, check out all my other villain ones, and then of course the hero ones, and then anything else that I happen to put out, just showing you off all of the figures. The way that I do this is I break down each one of the characters' decks individually, some stats about the deck, a little bit of a background of the character itself, and then going over each card individually, what it does, how to deal with it, and I will be assigning it a threat level as well. Threat levels range from 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. This is basically my version of a priority level, how soon it is that you should get rid of that card before it does whatever it does and really messes up your Rangers. Now, whenever I give a priority level, it's just going to be based off of the card and how it may interact with other cards within the deck. I'm not taking into account like enhances to it from other foot soldiers or things along that way. So keep that in mind as we go through. I would love to hear your opinions on what it is that you think would make a card a higher priority or a lower priority compared to what I put it in. And of course, just what do you think of these guys in general? With all that said, let's go ahead and check out what each one of these game-ending threats have to offer, how to get around them, how to defeat them, and of course, how each one of them contributes to giving Rita a headache. Grab your aspirin, and let's get going. Master of Duplication, and Rita's friend of a friend of sorts, the Wizard of Deception. A master of illusion, an old rival to Zordon, the Wizard of Deception was called on by Rita and the Ghost of Darkness to create a duplicate of Tommy, an evil Green Ranger. Like we haven't seen that before. He was also given the task of defeating the other Rangers, so he blasted them back in time, ultimately leaving the fate of the world in Tommy's hands. The White Ranger proved his worth by defeating the evil Green Ranger, disarming and destroying the Wizard of Deception, going back in time and rescuing his friends, and giving new life to his clone, whom he left in the past under the name Tom. Yeah, that's not going to come back to bite anybody in the time stream one day. It's Power Rangers. There's a simple explanation for that. The Wizard of Deception is a boss-type card in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning that you need to defeat 6 of the 8 cards within his deck in order to beat him and win the game. His deck has a lot of card discarding abilities to it, and one big final attack. Within his deck, you'll find 3 4 health cards, 3 5 health cards, a 6 health, and a 7 health card. And as far as his keywords break down, one of them is blank, 3 are fast, 2 have guard, 1 has passive, and 1 is a combo of fast passive. A lot of keywords spread around here. It is worthy to note that the Wizard of Deception is an original Power Rangers creation. There is no Super Sentai part for this weird creature, and his entire existence within this whole thing was to have the Green Ranger fight the White Ranger, because I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see that. But Wizard of Deception himself didn't do too much within the show. He did a lot more in the comics, but that's where we get a lot of these cards from anyway. Dark Knowledge, 4 health, fast card. This one, I believe there is 3 in his deck. I have a list aside, just I forget. So each one of these is fast. Each Ranger must draw 2 cards and then discard 2 random cards from their hand. This is a threat level of 3, only because you're gaining the 2 cards, so yes, it comes out of your deck, so now your Ranger is weaker to upcoming attacks, but it's not like you're losing out on too much. You just take the 2 cards. The random discarding of the 2 is what makes this card a little bit more annoying, because if you have a really good card in your hand, you draw 2, shuffle, and then 2 of them go away, there is a chance that you're going to lose that card that you really want to use in order to get in there and fight the wizard or anything else that's there. So it's also a fast card. Granted, there's a lot of these, so there may be a chance that you will be able to get rid of one of these once it hits the field. And if that's the case, definitely look to do that. Next, we have Banishment. Only one of these in his deck, 5 health, no keywords, so it's blank. The lead Ranger must discard their entire hand. Be honest with you, I'm giving this a threat level of 2. This is not so bad. You will actually throw this down on the ground, like on the ground, on the battle lineup before anything else. So if you see this out there, you can either get rid of it immediately if your lead Ranger has a lot of powerful cards in their hand, or have your lead Ranger play those cards immediately in order to do the most damage possible before they discard all their hand, or they just are able to discard their hand. This isn't really that bad of a thing. And in fact, it will be able to play into your Ranger's team strategy a little bit better, because you can work around the fact that you know that your lead Ranger is losing all the cards in their hand, which is terrible. We don't like that. But at the same time, you're able then to be like, all right, so you use those cards right now within this session, get rid of as much as you can. This is then becomes a free turn afterwards, because once it exhausts and triggers, you lose all those cards, and then it just moves on from there. So this is actually more of a helpful strategy card for the Rangers than it is really anything terrible that the Wizard does to them. Now we get into some more dangerous stuff. The Shadow Pact, 5 health, guard keyword, 2 of these within his deck, 3 damage to each Ranger, drain 2 energy. That is why the threat level is a 4, because I hate drain. Drain is awful. 3 damage to each Ranger, manageable, not a big deal. At the worst case scenario, yes, you lose 3 cards because they could all be 1 shield, but best case, you only lose 1 as a 3 shield, or even better case, you manage to reduce shield attacking from this, or increase shield values of your other cards to not lose anything. It's the draining of the 2 energy that is terrible, plus it's a guard card, so you should be able to hit it as soon as you can. If this is on the field, this is definitely one of your priority guards for sure to get rid of, not only to get rid of the drain, but also to open up other cards. It has 5 health, so it's a little bit more tricky to take down than other things, but it's definitely a recommendation to go after this as soon as you can. Always remember, guards don't guard guards, so if there are multiples of these on the field or other guard cards or whatever, figure out a good priority to take things out in order to open up more targets for later attacks. This guy is so fearsome and does so many cool attacks on his cards that I feel like he was a waste in the show. He should have been something a little bit more regular after that, Return of the Green Ranger 2-part episode. He just disappears completely after that. I'm pretty sure we do not see him ever again except for those 2 episodes. Especially if he did this move, the Shadow Phantasm. Look at that card, it's so cool. This is a 6 health card. It is a passive, only one of these in his deck. While this card is in play, each time a Ranger defeats a Wizard of Deception card, including this one, they must discard the top 2 cards of their deck. This is a threat level of 5. Why? Because discarding 2 cards cannot be prevented by anything. This isn't like taking damage to reduce it and whatnot. This is just you blatantly getting rid of cards from your deck, reducing your Ranger's overall health and making them more susceptible to being knocked out from other attacks. Now, the wizard himself, as you saw, does not have very many attacks. He only has like 1 or 2 right now that are damaging attacks, except for the next one I'm going to show, but I'll explain that one when I talk about it. But it's still lowering the Ranger's overall health, which means they're going to have to spend actions to recover, or they may go down when a foot soldier attacks, which means they're going to be off to the command center, and it's one last life point that you guys have for, the battle. So this is definitely something you should get rid of because you don't want to be discarding cards needlessly throughout the battle. If you can find a way around it, do it. This is a 6 health card, so it's going to take a little bit in order to knock it down, some boosts, maybe 2 attacks in order to do it, but I would definitely make sure that 1, this is unguarded as soon as possible, and then 2, defeat it before anything else. And finally, we have his ultimate card, the Foul Ritual. 7 health, fast passive, 1 of these within his deck. At the end of this battle, if this card has not been defeated, deal 7 damage to each Ranger. I do have this as a threat level of 5, and I'm going to keep it as a 5, but I'm just going to let you know that, as I mentioned before, threat levels are more or less priority order, what it is that you want to try to take down as fast as possible so this way they don't trigger. Because this triggers at the very end of the battle, this is also, again, like a free turn that you can take in order to be able to prep something, set up maneuvers, set up something strong to like take down other cards and everything like that. This won't trigger until the Rangers take their last turn in the battle. So you have a while in order to figure that out. However, you do want to get rid of it. You don't want this on the field once you have finished defeating the wizard and all the foot soldiers and whatever like that, because 7 damage to each Ranger is a lot. That's over 1/3 of your health. You only have 20 shields within your deck, minus whatever it is that you have in your hand. You can really like take a Ranger. A Ranger can be completely knocked out like for that battle in that last moment when Foul Ritual actually triggers. So dispel it. Get rid of it, destroy the Wizard of Deception and all of his awesome attacks that he does here, as opposed to him just kind of standing around and hypnotizing Vulcan's skull and just being a weird nuisancey thing in the show. Man, he really needed to come back better. Evil Overlord and Rita's husband, Lord Zedd. The true leader to the evil space aliens, Lord Zedd, arrived at Rita's palace a year after she was released from the dumpster, and he then put her back in as a punishment, launching her into space for not destroying the Power Rangers. However, she was able to return, and using the help of Finster, create a love potion which caused the sadistic megalomaniac to fall madly in love with her, and the two got married. That was a fun few episodes. Zedd is the incarnation of all things evil. Nasty, maniacal, sadistic, very strategic in his plannings, and will stop at nothing to achieve his goals of universal conquest, even if he's reluctantly sharing it with his wife. As a boss-type monster in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, you would need to defeat 6 of Lord Zedd's 8 cards in order to take this monster down. Within his deck, there are a lot of big area of attacks, so be ready in order to defend against multiple hits from all the Rangers participating in battle. Within his deck, you'll find 2 4 health cards, 4 5 health cards, 1 6 health, and 1 7 health. And the keywords break down to 2 of them being blank, 3 of them fast, 2 of them guard, and 1 passive. Lord Zedd's character arc within the show itself went very similar to Goldar's in that you had this character who was feared and respected and generally like, we need to get rid of this guy or figure out what he's doing because he is just the worst type of thing, all the way up until he got married to Rita, which then he had this like weird attitude shift to him and became extremely goofy. Now I know that Power Rangers started getting quite comical and goofy as time went on and everything, but when you first saw Lord Zedd in like his like the muscles showing and the tubes and everything, he was terrifying as a young kid seeing that, and just knowing that he is what the Rangers had to go up against, going forward was like, oh my goodness. But once he married Rita, he really mellowed out. So, it's the thing with being a husband. I guess it is what it is. I'm sure some of you out there will attest to that. But going through his deck, he is no joke for sure. Let's start with the Cruel Strike right here. There are 2 of these within his deck. 4 health. These are his fast cards. 2 of these being fast. 1 ranger must discard the top 3 cards of their deck. Holy Jesus, this guy is so hard. I'm still only going to put this at a threat level of 3 because there's no way unless these are really his only fast cards. He has 3 fast cards. That's all these. So if you pull this out, it's going to the front regardless. You're not going to be able to take this down unless you have something that gets around fast, which if you do, you may want to get rid of it. It's only 4 health, so it's not exactly a huge thing to get rid of. A 4 dice attack should be fine, so pump something up or something along that ways. But getting rid of 3 cards is a lot. I mean, again, you have 10 cards in your deck. I mentioned shields before with 7 shields going away. This is cards. You have 10 cards in your deck, plus take whatever it is that's in your hand. So say you have 4 in your hand. Now you only have, 6 cards in your deck. You get rid of 3. You've already lost half of your life of whatever's remaining. So getting rid of something like this as soon as you can will be able to prevent another ranger from, going out of the game. However, you may want to use that strategically. If you know one particular ranger within the battle is not going to be very useful, let them just take the hit of sorts and then play cards from their hand and make sure everyone else can take defensive actions should something else come along. However, Zedd, again, has a lot of AoEs. That would be Area of Effect. This is attack cards that hit everything on the field, like Z Lightning right here. Now, this isn't exactly everything, but it could be problematic. So there are 2 of these within his deck. This is a 5 health card. Deal 12 damage divided among the rangers as they choose. This is a threat level of 4. Most of his cards are pretty high threat levels, to say the least, because this guy is awful. But the way that this works out a little bit more in favor of the rangers is that, again, divided among the rangers as they choose. Whenever you have something like that, you have to divvy out the points first before anybody starts revealing shields for defense. So if there are 3 rangers on the field, you have to say, all right, you can take 8, you can take 2, you can take 2, or in some other combination of that. You have to, acknowledge what it is that you have to declare what each ranger is taking in terms of damage before you start revealing. And then you can also start using other damage reduction things in order to tack on top of that, reducing stuff down to nothing or really knocking it down a little bit lower, adding shields, having star defense powers, things along that way. So next is the Inferno. 2 of these in his deck, 5 health, guard keyword, deal 5 damage to each ranger. Let's just keep it up with the threat level of 5. 5, 5, 5 right here, my friends. Because if you happen to get that fast card that goes out, someone's lost 3 cards already from their deck, 5 damage coming at them could easily knock them out of the battle. And again, we don't want to lose too many rangers unless we are a little bit further into the game and we can afford it. By the time you're fighting Zedd, it is the boss, so you are at the end. If you have enough lives left over where somebody can get knocked out and it's okay, just use that to your advantage in a way. But this is going to each ranger regardless. So no matter who it is in the battle, regardless of whatever, there's no division. There is some reduction, but most deduction only happens on a ranger by ranger basis. There are a few that do a spread for everyone, but you don't really get that much. Plus, it's a guard. Getting rid of the guard cards first will open up your attacks for other things. You have to defeat 6 cards, so no matter what, you've got to fight this guy twice. You may see both of these in one shot. You may only see one. Definitely get rid of them as soon as you see him. Next, we have the Aura of Doom, which is a much different looking image of Zedd than has been in all of these other cards. He's a lot more pointy in his visor, and he's very threatening and very menacing here. Only one of these in his deck. 6 health passive card. While this card is in play, each time a ranger plays a card with an energy cost greater than 0, deal 2 damage to that ranger after the card resolves. This is a threat level of 4. It's bad. We don't like dealing extra damage to our rangers. But if you're able to chain together 0 cost cards, this actually won't be that bad. And I have seen a lot of rangers nowadays have 0 cost cards that do ridiculous abilities if you set it up right. Now, again, if you come across this card, do a maneuver in the beginning for 0 costs, let this trigger, and then do a 0 cost card with whatever boost that maneuver gave in. You should be able to take it down pretty easy, pending it wasn't guarded by anything else. You just have to remember to deal the 2 damage. More often than not, when I fight Zedd, I'm so into it by that late in the game that I I've often forgotten that whenever I played a card that is more than 0 energy cost to deal 2 damage to that ranger. And finally, we have Darkness Burst. Now, I think when I talked about Cruel Strike, I said there was 3 of those in his deck. There are 2. Both of them are fast. This is his 3rd fast card within his deck. And again, you have to fight this guy twice to get rid of 6 cards, so you are going to see it. Hope that you do not pull a Cruel Strike early, or you only pull 1 early. Because if you pull a Cruel Strike after you pulled the Darkness Burst is easy. This is a 7 health fast card, only 1 of these in his deck. Deal damage to each ranger equal to the number of cards in their hand. You know, even regardless of anything, I'm still giving this a threat level of 2. Unless you have somebody that just wants to draw their entire hand for some reason, which I have played with people like that. It's their way they play, the way they like to play. You can actually get away with this pretty easily, especially if it's a little bit further down the line, how many other Cruel Strikes you pull beforehand. Because if you play a lot of cards from all the different rangers, and maybe you get to this card and trigger it, and everybody only has like 2 or 3 cards in their hand, that is manageable damage by everybody on the field that they can just take, they can tank, or they can reduce by other means, and then move on to other stuff. So this isn't a bad card in order to just kind of leave on the field for a little bit. It is 7 health, so it's a lot to hit, so prepare for it in a way. And then with that done, you're able to get rid of Zedd for good and send him into the dumpster, just like he did his would-be wife. Ferocious skeletal warrior and Rita's brother, Rito Revolto. Ruthless, cunning, serious in battle, but completely dim-witted and goofy every other second of the day. Rito popped into the Moon Castle one day with the Tangas as a present for his sister and new brother-in-law, who he calls Ed. Oh, isn't that sweet? What Rito lacks in intelligence, and he lacks a lot of it, he makes up for in battle savvy, able to take on the team of rangers with a variety of weaponry and his strength. He was even able to completely destroy the Thunderzords. And if this bumbling idiot continues to screw things up while fighting the rangers, he can always call upon his best buddy Goldar for backup. Rito is a boss-type monster in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning you need to defeat 6 of his cards in order to completely destroy him and win the game, which, as one of his things that he can do in his deck, is possible to do in 1 round. That's one of his big things that's in his deck that I have yet to see anywhere else. Most of his other attacks are pretty strong, but they're really not much that you have to think about. Within his deck, you'll find 2 4-health cards, 4 5-health cards, 2 6-health cards. And his keywords break down to 2 of them being blank, 3 of them are fast, 2 guard, and 1 passive. Love him or hate him, with Rito, you have to respect the bit. As I mentioned before with Zedd and Goldar, they started as these like strong, menacing, threatening, sometimes stoic warriors that, you know, always have 1 gold, set mindset, I'm evil, to these comic relief, goofy, one-liner saying type weird archetypes, you know, as the series went on. Rito, when he was introduced, that was him from the beginning. He was silly, he was stupid, he was like, you have to laugh at him the whole time, but when he gets into battle, that's when you know things got serious. Let's start with some of his attacks. First, the Blade of Bones, his signature sword weapon, which he carries around. 4 health, no keywords on this one at all. This does 5 damage. There are 5 damage. There are 2 of these within his deck. This is a threat level of 3. 5 damage stinks, but it is only going up to 1 ranger. It is very simple. It is very basic. Most of his cards are like that. There's just, I'm in there, I'm going to hit you. What are you going to do about it? And that's all Rito really brings to the table. This one is great because if you get it by itself, it's 4 health, which should be easily taken care of. No keywords on it, so you should be able to, again, just blow it out of the water with whatever you have. And taking 5 damage, plenty of things to reduce it, plenty of ways to increase shield value, getting cards on your deck, stacking cards in a certain way. It's really a good setup card for a bigger attack your Rangers can do to take down more Rito cards. Next is his Flamethrower, 5 health, fast keywords, 2 of these within his deck. He didn't really use the Flamethrower much in the show, but that's like the big cannon thing that's right here. Deal 3 damage to each Ranger, as would be expected, just a big fire swooshing around on all the Rangers in battle. 3 damage, once again, as mentioned before, really something that can be handled, can be tanked, can be worked with all these other ranger abilities out there to stack cards, to put things together and whatnot. Threat level of 3, not a hard card either. Now, these first 2 are 4 cards, 4 out of his 8 cards, so that's half of his deck, are really not that bad. The rest of his cards get a little bit more challenging and a lot more interesting as well. So with Flamethrower on the field, yes, it's fast. You're not going to probably really do too much about it. Make sure you have some reactions in order to be able to counter it and whatnot once it triggers off. But after that, you can go after other cards if this is surrounded by a guard or something along that ways first. Come back to this one later. 5 health isn't so bad. It's just his Flamethrower. Yeah, that's it. I like the image. Pretty cool. All right, something a little bit more devastating, the Crushing Impact. 5 health, guard keyword, 2 of these within his deck. This is a threat level of 4 before I even read it. Deal 3 damage to a single ranger twice. The only reason that it's a threat level of 4 is because you should get rid of it in order to get rid of that guard to hit one of the other cards, hopefully, that I just mentioned that have already popped out, whether it be fast from the Flamethrower that already went, or the, what is that there? The Blade of Bones that happen to be there. That's blank. That may be on the other side of this. You know, get rid of this as a guard in order to be able to free up space to destroy other things and whatnot. 3 damage to a single ranger twice. It's ideally 6 damage to a ranger. That is a lot. That is something you do have to deal with. And each instance of 3 damage is separate. So if you have any damage reduction, it would usually only happen on a single card. And of course, as you're flipping things over and whatnot. But again, it's only a threat level 4 because this is something you should focus on once it gets out of on the field, if it gets on the field, to get rid of it and, you know, open up space for other things to be hit. I also like this is a great shot of Rito next to the Thunder Megazord because Rito took that and the White Tiger Zord literally apart the first time he was able to go down and fight him. And he didn't fight the Rangers much throughout the course of the seasons, but when he did, he left that lasting impact. We're going to move on to Hideous Strength, one of these within his deck. 6 health cards, a passive card. While this card is in play, each time a Rito Revolto card deals damage, increase that damage by 2. Yes, this is a threat level of 5 because a lot of the cards, all the cards I just showed you already, dealt massive amount of damage, or not massive, but a decent amount of damage to one or all the Rangers. Increasing that by any number is awful. I mean, his Flamethrower then would do 5 damage to each Ranger. The, what is it? The Crushing Impact would do 5 damage twice to a single Ranger, so that's 10 damage. Like, his Blade Bones would do 7 damage. Like, that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot of damage incoming to a Ranger. It's a lot of cards that would be flipped over into the discard pile. This is something that you definitely need to get rid of as fast as possible. That's why it is the threat level of 5. Get around it, get around the guard, destroy the guard, use ignore guard cards, something along that way. Anything you can to get rid of this card. It's 6 health, so it's going to take a little bit of work, but it can be done before another attack card triggers. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, depending on, you know, if there's a fast on the field or not. Get rid of this. Trust me, this would be your number 1 priority card with its entire deck that you would want to get rid of as fast as possible. And finally, my favorite boss card in the entire game, because I love the mechanic behind this, Stumbling Fool. 6 health, 1 of these in his card, fast keyword, draw 2 cards from Rito Revolto's enemy deck and place them after this card in the combat sequence. Place 1 hit token on each of those cards. This, my friends, is a level 1 threat. This is a great, great card to have. Now, there is a possibility, depending on what cards you draw, this could come later on in the sequence. When that happens, you would have 2 cards after it. So this is effectively 3 cards right here. You could have had a fast card, and this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th. So maybe you can't defeat him in one shot. I always felt that you could defeat Rito in 1 round by getting 6 cards on the field at once. But with this being fast, it's always going to move to the front, and then 2 are going to come after it. I'm pretty sure that those 2 cards that you draw will just go to the combat sequence. I think when I first fought Rito, that I thought that was just like something this card did. Like if it was all the way up front, it would be this 1, 2, and then you would continue to draw 3 more cards. So in that case, I was able to then defeat Rito in 1 shot. That may even be how it is because he's a stumbling fool. He trips, he falls. His cards just kind of fall out on the table and you're like, oh, that's what you have? Awesome. Let's go take him down. I'd love to hear what your thoughts about this stumbling fool are down in the comment section below. Is that how you would play this card? Is that how you see it? Or is that how you would work with it? Whether have the ability to get 6 cards on the battlefield, or at most in this case 5 if both other fasts are beforehand, meaning you would still need another battle to defeat him. But regardless of anything, the extra hit tokens on things, awesome. Ways to get around stuff, perfect. A card that could trigger and literally nothing happens, take that any day of the week. Awesome. This, again, you gotta respect the bit, even down to the game, because they show you exactly what type of character Rito is. High-ranking warlock and master to all he sees, Rita's father, Master Vile. Master Vile is the sheer embodiment of wicked ruthlessness, a power-hungry tyrant bent on galactic conquest. Despite not approving of his son-in-law, Master Vile worked alongside Zedd and Rita to try and use the Zeo Crystal to destroy the Power Rangers. And we all know how that turned out. After losing several times to the alien rangers of Aquitar and the arrival of the Machine Empire, Vile left his kids to return back to his home planet. But before leaving, he gave them one last bit of info. There's a skeleton key under the mat, and do not wake him when they arrive. Master Vile is a boss-type monster within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning you have to defeat 6 of his 8 cards before sending him back to the retirement home. Within his deck, he has lots of value manipulation cards, some huge drain, huge attacks, and many have considered him one of the hardest bosses within the game. Within his deck, you'll find 6 5 health cards, 2 6 health cards, and his keywords are pretty well evenly spaced out. 2 blank, 2 fast, 2 guard, and 2 passive. Yes, his cards are awful. Yes, they are something that you have to deal with mostly at high-level threats, but I don't really consider him one of the hardest bosses in the game. I mean, he's difficult by all means, but you know, I've faced harder, especially with a lot of the newer bosses that have come out for the game. But let's start with the negation wave here. 5 health, no keywords on this. There are 2 of these within his deck, so there are your 2 blanks. This is drain 6 energy. Goodness, that's a threat level of 5 right there, because you cannot have that much of a drain. That is everything that is within the shared pool, which is 2. And if you have 4 Rangers in battle, that takes away all of their stuff. If you have less than 4, that starts taking away Ranger cards, because if you can't drain an energy from the shared pool or a Ranger's card, you have to start discarding cards from your hand. Draining 6 energy is awful. This isn't fast, so it's not going to go to the front. This isn't a guard card, so you do have to try to get around other guards if they happen to be out there. I think when I fought him, I got lucky, and this was kind of on its own and whatnot, because this was one of my top priorities to get rid of. I don't mind taking damage, because you can always recover, and you can kind of work it around with other characters and things along that ways, but draining energy is the worst, especially if you have a great idea about how to do a super attack, and you need that energy in order to do a power weapon, or to do a card combo or something like that. Oh, I hate drain. Drain and card discard are my 2 worst enemies within this game, and this is one of the worst cards that I've ever seen with it. It is manageable. You can get around it. I would just make sure that you focus on it as early as possible. Next, we have the Hex Blast. 5 health, fast keyword, 2 of these within his deck. Deal 6 damage, deal 6 damage. Threat level of 4. So yeah, 6 damage is awful, but at least because it's 2 instances of 6 damage, you can give them to 2 different Rangers. I wouldn't have a single Ranger take 12 damage unless they are like 1 or 2 cards close to being defeated after the initial 6. Because remember, this is 2 separate instances. If a Ranger is really close to being defeated and they take 6 damage and they go out, another Ranger has to take that additional 6 damage. Whereas if a single Ranger took 6 and they only have like 1 card left in their deck, maybe they take that 6 damage, they go out of the battle, but then the rest of that damage is lost and the Rangers can take another turn again. So you have to be very strategic about how many extra lives you have once you get to this far into the game, fighting bosses and figuring out the best strategy in order to take them down. Kind of one way you can work around it to like take the damage, or you can just kind of use damage reductions and whatnot to get rid of it, or destroy the card before it even triggers, but it's fast, so that's a little hard to do unless you have something that gets around fast. Next, we have the Gravity Well, 5 health, guard keyword, 2 of these in his deck, threat level of 3, deal 3 damage to each Ranger twice. So yeah, that's again, some really, really heavy attacks here. This is an AoE against all the Rangers in the battle. This is technically 6 damage, but it's really 3 damage to each Ranger. That's a lot of instances of 3 damage going around. If you have 3 characters on that, then 3, 6, 9, that's 9 separate points of damage, where even if you have damage reduction, you may only want to do that on characters that don't have a lot of cards left or something along that ways, or throwing cards from a discard pile back on top or something along that way. So yeah, it's a threat level of 3, simply because of the guard as well. You probably want to prioritize this a little bit earlier in order to get rid of it to open up space for other things. But if you are playing with characters that get around guard, use those first to defeat either some of the previous cards I mentioned or one of these next cards that I'm going to be showing you. Like, say, for example, Hideous Power. One of these in his deck, 6 health, passive. This is a level 5 threat, very high threat level on this. While this card is in play, each time a Master Vial card deals damage, increase that damage by 2. Each time a card deals damage, that would mean that like 6 damage is now 8 damage. Every Ranger takes 3 damage twice. Every Ranger takes 5 damage twice. Yes, that type of damage increase is something you need to get rid of immediately. If you have Rangers that get around guard or find ways around it, or Zords that have the ability to do damage to cards and whatnot to lower this down so you can take it down faster, do it. This passive needs to get out of there, because if it does anything to power up any one of his other attack cards, you are losing a Ranger within that battle. You may lose multiple Rangers in that battle. Because remember, one of the lose conditions for this is that if all Rangers are knocked down and there are no more life tokens to feed into a Ranger to recover them, it is a game over. It's still something you need to consider, still something you need to think about, and understand that power increase for a villain is really awful for the Rangers. Next, we have the Warlock's Curse. I haven't talked too much about like Vial himself. He's kind of a vague memory for me. I knew he was in the show at the end, and I knew his relationship to Rita, but you know, even doing research on this and like checking out some of the past episodes and whatnot, he wasn't really in it very much, but what he was in it, he made an impact. This card, for example, 6 health, passive, one of these in his deck. While this card is in play, the energy cost of all combat cards increases by 1. If I had a higher threat level than 5, this would get it. If you got this and Hideous Power out at the same time, actually, that's really not so bad, because that means they're only powering up a few other cards. But these are the ones that you want to take down first, because those other cards, once they trigger, are just going to make things awful. You're going to lose all your energy. You're going to spend extra energy in order to do things. You're going to take extra damage from the other cards. Like, this one increase means that there is no such thing as a 0-cost card, so long as Warlock's Curse is on the field. That's another reason you want to get rid of this as well, because if everything costs energy, then your team is at a severe disadvantage, because you got to really figure out what cards to play in what order in order to be able to get the most out of them. You also have to be really lucky on your dice rolls, which, as we all know, is well, they're supposed to be in your favor, 1 damage per dice, but I'll be honest with you, I've rolled, several dice at once and they all roll blanks. I don't know how it is. It's a magical thing that Renegade did with these dice. They always roll blanks. You never see double hits, but hopefully in a pinch, when you absolutely need it, you get the damage you get and you're able to defeat and nullify and dispel the Warlock's Curse. A shoehorned in villain for a 2-part special, Zedd and Rita's son, Thrax. I seriously have no idea how this thing came to be, but Thrax is the son of Zedd and Rita, and has a lot of similarities to his parents. Like his father, he's ruthless, sadistic, and power-hungry. While like his mom, Thrax is cold-hearted, calculated, and just really bent on destroying Earth. Wielding Zedd's Z-Staff, how did you get that? Wasn't it supposed to be destroyed? Thrax's main goal is to do what it is that his parents could not do. Defeat the Power Rangers once and for all and conquer Earth. That's it. There's really nothing else to him. Adam defeats him. Good riddance. I don't like this character. But that doesn't mean he is not a threat within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, because as a boss, you need to defeat 6 of his 8 cards in order to send this odd offspring packing. Within his deck, you will find several big attacks, some value manipulation, and a lot of guard cards. Also within his deck, 2 of them have 4 health, 2 of them have 5 health, and 4 are 6 health cards. And his keywords break down to 3 of them being fast, 4 of them having the guard keyword, and 1 combo keyword of guard passive. I love the Once a Ranger special. I really do. It's one of the few good things about Operation Overdrive, which as a season really wasn't bad in its own right. A lot of people give it a lot of hate and whatnot. I watched through it. Yes, it's had some of the plot points and everything were even far out there for Ranger standards and everything. But when it came to the crossover special, Once a Ranger, which I think was like the 100th episode of anniversary special or something like that. I don't know. It was some anniversary special. There was so many great things about Once a Ranger. Thrax is not one of them. He is such a horribly written villain for something that should have been more epic than what it was. Sorry, I'm done. I'm done with it. We're just going to go into it. Void Burst. Let's go right into his cards right here. 2 of these within his deck, 4 health, fast keywords. You'll probably hear me more talk about how bad this guy is. Deals 6 damage to each ranger. Reduce the damage that each ranger suffers by 1 for each card in their discard pile. This is a threat level of 2. Like, because he's a boss, you could actually almost have this pre-set up before you fight him. Yes, this is fast. This is going to go to the front. Yes, there's 2 of these. It can go that way. It deals 6 damage. If you have a lot of cards in your discard pile already, this just does less and less damage the more cards you have there. Now, you don't want cards in your discard pile. You want to put them back into the Ranger's deck in order for them to be able to draw them and do stuff and be able to take damage from other things. But there's just so many different ways around this where you can start this card's activation with a lot of cards in your deck. It triggers, the Rangers go, and then you use maneuvers, you use Zords, you use all kinds of other things to immediately throw a bunch of cards back into the deck and then go back at it. So it's just, Thrax is extremely like aggressive within that episode. So that's why you see cards like this, who he's like just running in blindly, trying to swing away at stuff, not realizing the power that a Ranger already has. So it represents the character, I guess, but I just do not like the design, and I do not like how this character is portrayed. Maybe he's different in the comics. Can somebody tell me that? I don't know where he does. I know that they have artists or whatever. I found out through that last stream that they commission artists for unique artwork for these characters. Do not know if Thrax actually is in the comic or this is just for the card, but hey, if he does Implosion Wave, that would be awesome. This is a very devastating card. 2 of these in his deck, 5 health, both of them are guards. Drain 3 energy. That's the threat level of 5 right there coming right at you. Each Ranger must either discard 1 random card from their hand or discard the top 2 cards of their deck. So not only are you losing 3 energy, you're losing 1 or 2 cards, which again, that is awful. That is not something that you want to have to deal with. It's just that 3 energy drain. That 3 energy drain and the fact that it's a guard card that you need to get rid of, why I rank it so high. Like, everything else can be managed. The 5 health can be managed. It's just get rid of it for that energy drain and get rid of it to unguard things so you can start rummaging around other stuff. Now, again, he has a lot of guards in his deck because he's nasty like that. So, see what else pops in. Now we have the Lightning Beam, a lesser version than his father's attack. There are 2 of these within his deck. 6 health, guard keyword, deal 10 damage divided among the Rangers as they choose. That's a threat level of 4. 12 is what Zedd did. He does 10. It's just slightly weaker than his father because he is very, very much not on the same scale as Zedd and Rita together or even separate. As I mentioned before, you need to allocate the damage first before everyone starts flipping over cards. But at 10 damage, that again can be divided out pretty well between everybody, reduced depending on what all your reactions are and everything along that way. So that's really it for the Lightning Beam. Just a not as good version of Zedd. Here's an awesome card where he's actually fighting Adam. Adam's in like that overdried shield wearing on his chest, but that is absolutely him. Hideous Blow, 6 health, fast keyword. There's 1 of these within the deck. Deal 4 damage to the Ranger with the most cards in their hand. Increase this damage by 1 for each card in that Ranger's hand. Now, this is a threat level of 4 because if it's moved down the line, you definitely want to try to get rid of it before it triggers. It's 4 damage plus 1 for every card in their hand. Now, you can have somebody that doesn't have a lot of cards in their hands, but that's still going to be maybe like 5 or 6 damage. If you have somebody drawing up to their full that has 5 cards in their hand, that's going to deal 9 damage to them. And you can't choose. It's just whoever has the most cards in their hand. So there is a way that you can prep your Rangers in order to be able to take the least amount of damage once this triggers. Have one person play cards in order to even it out a little bit, because if 2 Rangers have the exact same number, you choose which one takes the damage. So there's ways around it. There's ways to do it. It's just that it's fast, so you're going to have to like think on your feet in order to be able to do something about it as soon as possible. And then, of course, just get in there and knock this out before it has the ability to knock out another Ranger. And finally, we have Curse of Doom. So I guess Thrax has spell casting abilities like his mom? Sure, why not? Because who knows where this combination is coming from in terms of how he looks and whatnot. One of these in his deck, a 6 health card, Guard passive, Guard being great because you just kind of take it out whenever. While this card is in play, after each Ranger combat card resolve, deal 3 damage to that Ranger. That Ranger may spend 1 energy to prevent the damage. All right, so I'm going to put it as a threat level of 4, just mostly, again, to get rid of it as a guard card, you know, open up things and whatnot. Still, there is some things here that you have to kind of keep in mind, because after each Ranger's combat card resolves, if you're playing something in a chain, things do have to get resolved after each one. 3 damage, again, isn't so bad, or you can just spend an energy in order to prevent it all. Again, it's just more of wanting to get rid of that guard to open up the attacking of other cards that are a little bit more annoying out of all of his annoying cards and whatnot. This type of character, the son of Zedd and Rita, should have been so much more of a bigger deal than what he was. I felt like he was a waste within the special, or at least he should have been back or the main villain of the season overall. Let me know what you think of him down in the comment section below. I'm done with him. And I really can't end this off without at least talking about Rita's mother. If I've talked about everything else, we have to talk about her, who was actually never mentioned at all within the show itself. You'd have to go to the Boom comic books for that. She is Lady Fienna, I think is what it is. She is an all-powerful sorceress who is actually an ally of Zordon's. She had a vision that that her daughter was going to be the Mystic Mother, you know, ruler of all good things good, but she didn't know that her husband at the time, which was vile, I guess. I guess that's how it was working. I gotta read the comic book. But yes, so that is Rita's mother. Technically, she is Rito's stepmother. Rito is not her son, but Rita is definitely her daughter. Rita means that she has both light and darkness within her, probably how she was able to, you know, change into the Mystic Mother and become, you know, that type of like good sorceress once Zordon sent out that positive pulse wave and whatnot, and just have all that big like evil on one side, not so evil on the other for her and whatnot. But I just really wanted to just bring in Rita's mom to us, because if I have everything else here, you might as well just show the rest of the family tree. Regardless of all of that, Rita aside, here you have 5 bosses within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, each one of them adding very unique mechanics and a lot of challenge to your game. Remember, these are going to be the last things you guys fight within your games. Defeating them wins you the game. So this is where it all comes down to. All your powering up, all your Zords, all your learning of the cards and things along that ways, the strategies you come in hand. This is where it all accumulates to. Finding the boss, locking him in this position, defeating them once, and defeating them a second time. Mostly, again, I still say Ritos you can defeat all in one. I just like the way that works. But again, as I mentioned before, it's what you guys think. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you would rule it in your games. I'd also love to hear your opinions on all the rest of these bosses here and any of the other ones that happen to appear in the game as well. What are some of your favorite bosses that you like going up against? Are there any ones that you find yourself constantly trying to go up against to defeat, or ones that are a little bit more easy compared to hard? I gotta tell you right now, Daishi is really hard. To me, that is the hardest boss in the game, Daishi. Vile is tough, don't get me wrong. Daishi is much, much harder, especially if you don't start defeating his cards right away and all of the passives keep triggering one after another. He could really mess you up really badly. But regardless of all that, here's what we have here. We got a bunch more that'll be coming from the Eternal Ranger Kickstarter, which will be going live in 2025 so far, including an upgraded version of Zedd in his master mode, which was the very last thing that you saw during Cosmic Fury that put a bookend to the entire Power Rangers saga from Mighty Morphin all the way to Cosmic Fury, because we don't have anything beyond that right now, and we unfortunately doesn't look like anything new is coming anytime soon. But that doesn't mean nothing new will be coming soon from this channel. So in order not to miss any more Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid action or any other fun video I put out for you to enjoy, be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad. If you wish to support the channel even further, there are ways to do that down in the description section below. I did mention affiliate links earlier in the video. If any of these interest you and you do not have the Kickstarter box or Ally Pack 1, 3, or anything else that I haven't put down there, the Forever Blue pack is available as well, so that's going to be down there too if you are curious about that. Using those in order to make those purchases go a long way to helping the channel is greatly, greatly appreciated in every way, shape, and form. But regardless of anything, your view, your like, your share, your comments, your subscriptions, just all of that go a long, long way to helping Home Gamer Dad do all of this, continue with the Rangers' eternal legacy, so I can show you more breakdowns, so I can do playthroughs and all kinds of other fun things that I think I have planned for the future. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Thank you once again. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together. Not so much Rita's family, because they're really messed up, though I could see them being a heck of a lot of fun at holidays. But for right now, just their own thing. Sorry for really hating on Thrax as well. I rewatched Once a Ranger in order to just prep for this episode and whatnot, and I forgot how much I disliked him, but I liked every other portion of that two-part episode, especially when those legendary Rangers jumped into the Overdrive Zords and controlled them themselves. Very cool to see all that, a lot of fun stuff. So be sure to check out all that anyway, and until next time, you guys have a good one, and I will catch you all later.